If you're new to the language and haven't learned the alphabet yet, there's one best way to help you master it in an hour or less. And it's not an app or some video course. What is it? Keep watching. But first, if you don't yet have access to our language learning system, sign up for a free lifetime account right now. Just click the link in the description to get your free lifetime account. The fastest, easiest, and most obvious way to learn the alphabet. So, what's the best and most obvious way? Well, nowadays you'll see different kinds of resources online just for learning the alphabet. There's flashcards, apps, video lessons. But the best way to learn the alphabet is always going to be by simply practicing writing the letters out. Sounds obvious, but in this digital age, writing things out isn't the first thing most people think of. Most people generally reach for an app or Google for it. Ironically, those ways are slower than writing things out. Simply put, if you're writing things out, you're engaging multiple senses, and you'll remember everything better than just swiping around on an app and only looking at the letters. You're actually practicing and producing the language. So if you're about to start learning the language, you should keep this in mind. It'll take you way less time. Now, of course, your next questions may be how and what should I use? How to get our alphabet workbook for free, if you follow these steps. This is where our alphabet PDF workbook comes in, which you can get for free on our site. So, just 1, click the link in the description. 2, sign up for a free lifetime account. 3, once you have your account, come back to the link above, or just click the link in the description and the PDF workbook will be unlocked. And 4, download and print out the workbook. That's it. That's all you need to do to get started and master the alphabet. How to learn the alphabet in 1 hour or less. Once you print out the PDF, just write the characters in the provided spaces. Again, by physically writing things out, you learn faster because you're engaging more senses. And you can also print several copies of the same workbook for extra practice. Once you're done, be sure to immediately move on to reading and writing. This will help cement the alphabet into your brain. And don't worry if you struggle remembering 1 or 2 letters. The rest comes from reading and writing practice. If you want to jump into reading, check our extensive reading books inside the lesson library. The absolute beginner books are simple 1 or 2 words per page books that will get you going. If you want to practice writing, make sure you're signed up to our email list. We email out writing workbooks and cheat sheets every week. So if you want to learn the language and get access to these learning tools and our learning system, sign up for a free lifetime account right now. Just click the link in the description to get your free lifetime account. Expand your vocabulary with our core 2,000 words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free English ebook before it's gone. Do you know how to talk about mistakes or bad decisions in English? Hi, my name is Alicia, and this is 3-Step English by EnglishClass101.com. In this lesson, you'll learn how to discuss wrong decisions or business mistakes through a quick conversation. Let's look at the dialogue. So, tell me about yourself, Mason. Well, I've always been interested in science and research. I studied earth sciences at UCLA. While I was there, I got the opportunity to go to Antarctica as a researcher. After that, I finished my studies, and now I'm looking to further my career. I admit, your resume is impressive. You seem a bit overqualified for an assistant position. If I hadn't taken time off from school, I would be farther in my career right now. I see. And why do you think you would be a good fit for this job? I'm very organized and good with time management. I learned these skills when I was a researcher in Antarctica. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't had that experience. Those are valuable skills indeed. One final question. What are your biggest weaknesses? I would say my biggest weakness is that I am a perfectionist. I was always the last person to leave the lab in Antarctica. If I wasn't such a perfectionist, I would have been a lot less stressed in college. Well, that answers all of my questions. We'll be in touch. Thank you very much. I look forward to hearing from you. Let's go over the dialogue again, more slowly this time. So, tell me about yourself, Mason. Well, I've always been interested in science and research. I studied earth sciences at UCLA. While I was there, I got the opportunity to go to Antarctica as a researcher. After that, I finished my studies and now I'm looking to further my career. I admit your resume is impressive. You seem a bit overqualified for an assistant position. Pay attention to the next sentence. It follows the key speaking pattern you'll learn later in this lesson. If I hadn't taken time off from school, I would be farther in my career right now. I see. And why do you think you would be a good fit for this job? I'm very organized and good with time management. I learned these skills when I was a researcher in Antarctica. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't had that experience. Those are valuable skills indeed. One final question. What are your biggest weaknesses? I would say my biggest weakness is that I am a perfectionist. I was always the last person to leave the lab in Antarctica. If I wasn't such a perfectionist, I would have been a lot less stressed in college. Well, that answers all of my questions. We'll be in touch. Thank you very much. I look forward to hearing from you. Let's look at the sentence pattern. Do you remember the focus sentence from the dialogue? If I hadn't taken time off from school, I would be farther in my career right now. This sentence follows the pattern here. This pattern is the structure that all of our examples will follow. If plus past perfect clause plus subject plus would plus base verb. This sentence pattern, if, past perfect clause, subject, would, base verb, is used to talk about regrets or wrong decisions from the past that affect the present. It helps the speaker reflect on something they did or didn't do and what the result would be now if things had been different. Let's go part by part. The if clause uses the past perfect tense. This form, usually had, followed by a past participle, shows that the action happened or didn't happen in the past. It sets up a condition that is no longer possible. The second part of the sentence is the main clause, which starts with the subject and uses would plus base verb to show the imagined present result. This part tells us what the speaker believes their situation would be now if the past had gone differently. Now, let's look at the example sentence. If I hadn't taken time off from school, I would be farther in my career right now. The if clause is if I hadn't taken time off from school. This uses the past perfect hadn't taken to describe the past action that the speaker regrets. The main clause is, I would be farther in my career right now. This imagines the present situation. The speaker believes they would be in a better position today if the past had been different. Now, let's look at some speaking examples. If I'd had a personal assistant, I wouldn't be so disorganized. Can you see how the pattern applies here? This sentence begins with the if clause. If I'd had a personal assistant. That's a past perfect clause using had. Then we have the result clause. I wouldn't be so disorganized. It uses would plus base verb in the present. This fits the first pattern. If plus past perfect clause, subject plus would plus base verb. The speaker is talking about a current problem, being disorganized, that results from a past situation. Next, my boss wouldn't be upset if I'd sent her the invoices on time. This sentence begins with the result. My boss wouldn't be upset. That's the subject plus would plus based verb. Then comes the if clause. If I'd sent her the invoices on time, which uses the past perfect form had sent. This follows the second pattern. Subject plus would plus base verb, if plus past perfect clause. It shows a present consequence caused by a past mistake. Let's try one more. If I hadn't been late to the meeting, I would know what is going on. Here, the if clause is first. If I hadn't been late, a past perfect structure. The result clause is I would know what is going on, using would plus base verb. This matches the first pattern. The speaker missed something important because of a past action. Another one. I would be promoted now if I had worked harder last year. This sentence starts with the result clause. I would be promoted now, showing what could be true in the present. Then it gives the condition. If I had worked harder last year, which is a past perfect clause. This fits the second pattern. A present situation is explained by a different decision that should have been made in the past. One last example. I would make the copies if I had found the copy paper. The result comes first. I would make the copies. This is in the present tense with would plus base verb. Then the if clause. If I had found the copy paper uses the past perfect. This again fits the second pattern and shows that a current action is not happening because of something that didn't happen earlier. Thank you for watching! Now you know how to discuss wrong business decisions or business mistakes in English, and now you can move on to the practice. Expand your vocabulary with our core 2,000 words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free English ebook before it's gone. Do you know how to express regrets about business decisions in English? Hi, my name is Alicia, and this is 3-Step English by EnglishClass101.com. In this lesson, you'll learn how to express regrets about business decisions through a quick conversation. Let's look at the dialogue. Mason, do you have a moment? I've got a quick question. Of course. What can I do for you? I just received an email from Wanda Walton saying that we're on for lunch tomorrow. Did you schedule this? Yes, I did. Your calendar was wide open for tomorrow. I wish you had checked with me first. I was planning to have lunch with a friend tomorrow. Oh no, if only I'd called you before confirming with Miss Walton. Would you like me to reschedule with her? No, that's all right. Wanda is an important colleague. I'll cancel with my friend. I'm very sorry, Miss Gomez. I wish I hadn't done that. It's okay. Just check with me first next time. Will do. Let's go over the dialogue again, more slowly this time. Mason, do you have a moment? I've got a quick question. Of course. What can I do for you? I just received an email from Wanda Walton saying that we are on for lunch tomorrow. Did you schedule this? Yes, I did. Your calendar was wide open for tomorrow. Pay attention to the next sentence. It follows the key speaking pattern you'll learn later in this lesson. I wish you had checked with me first. I was planning to have lunch with a friend tomorrow. Oh no, if only I'd called you before confirming with Miss Walton. Would you like me to reschedule with her? No, that's all right. Wanda is an important colleague. I'll cancel with my friend. I'm very sorry, Miss Gomez. I wish I hadn't done that. It's okay. Just check with me first next time. Will do. Let's look at the sentence pattern. Do you remember the focus sentence from the dialogue? I wish you had checked with me first. I was planning to have lunch with a friend tomorrow. This sentence follows the pattern here. This pattern is the structure that all of our examples will follow. I wish plus past perfect. Let's go part by part. I wish introduces the feeling of regret. It sets up the idea that the speaker is thinking about a situation in the past that cannot be changed. The past perfect is formed with had plus past participle. It shows that the action happened before another event in the past and cannot be changed. Let's see how the line from the dialogue follows this pattern. I wish you had checked with me first. I wish introduces the regret, and you had checked is in the past perfect. This shows that the speaker is disappointed that the listener did not confirm something earlier. There is a similar pattern, if only plus past perfect. For example, if only I had known. Like I wish, this structure expresses regret about something in the past. Compared to I wish, if only often sounds more emotional or dramatic. Now, let's look at some speaking examples. I wish that client hadn't complained to the manager. Can you see how the pattern applies here? This sentence uses I wish followed by the past perfect verb phrase hadn't complained. It expresses regret about a specific action that already happened in the past. The speaker wishes the client's complaint had not occurred. Next, if only I'd sent that invoice on time. This uses the if only structure followed by I'd sent, a contraction of I had sent, which is past perfect. It expresses strong regret that the speaker did not send the invoice when they should have. The sentence implies a negative consequence from that mistake. Let's try one more. I wish I hadn't scheduled that lunch. Here, I wish is followed by hadn't scheduled, again using the past perfect. This sentence shows that the speaker regrets setting up the lunch, probably because of how it turned out. Another one. I wish someone had shown me the copy paper. This sentence starts with I wish and follows with the past perfect verb phrase had shown. The speaker is expressing regret that no one showed them where the copy paper was, possibly because it caused confusion or delay. Thank you for watching! Now you know how to express regrets about business decisions in English. And now you can move on to the practice. Expand your vocabulary with our core 2,000 words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free English ebook before it's gone. Do you know how to talk about mistakes or bad decisions in English? Welcome to 3-Step English Practice by EnglishClass101.com. In this lesson, you'll practice how to discuss wrong decisions or business mistakes. Let's look at the main dialogue. Two people are having a conversation. I admit, your resume is impressive. You seem a bit overqualified for an assistant position. If I hadn't taken time off from school, I would be farther in my career right now. I see. And why do you think you would be a good fit for this job? In this dialogue, we see an example of a mixed conditional. The speaker says, if I hadn't taken time off from school, I would be farther in my career right now. This structure is used to talk about how a past event, taking time off from school, is affecting the present situation, not being as far along in their career. We use the pattern if plus past perfect clause, subject plus would plus base verb. Let's practice with this grammar more in this lesson. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? If I hadn't taken time off from school, I'd be farther in my career right now. If I hadn't taken time off from school, I'd be farther in my career right now. Would. Would. If I hadn't taken time off from school, I would be farther in my career right now. If I hadn't taken time off from school, I would be farther in my career right now. Would is used here because we're talking about a present result. Will is used for future situations, but this sentence talks about a hypothetical present based on a past condition. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? I wouldn't be the person I am today if I... that experience. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I... that experience. hadn't had. Hadn't had. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't had that experience. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't had that experience. We use hadn't had to show that the experience happened in the past and it affects who I am today, another mixed conditional structure. Didn't have refers to a simple past action, but we need past perfect because we're imagining a different past. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? If I'd had a personal assistant, I'd be so disorganized. If I'd had a personal assistant, I'd be so disorganized. Wouldn't. Wouldn't. If I'd had a personal assistant, I wouldn't be so disorganized. If I'd had a personal assistant, I wouldn't be so disorganized. The sentence imagines a past condition. If I'd had a personal assistant and its present result, I wouldn't be so disorganized. So, wouldn't fits. Won't refers to the future, but this sentence talks about how the present would be different if the past had been different. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? My coworker would have been fine if he, in advance. My coworker would have been fine if he, in advance. Had prepared. Had prepared. My coworker would have been fine if he had prepared in advance. My coworker would have been fine if he had prepared in advance. Had prepared is the correct past perfect form to match would have been. Prepared is the simple past, but the third conditional requires the past perfect, had prepared, to describe something that didn't happen in the past. Unscramble the words to make a sentence. Ready? If. If I'd. If I'd listened. If I'd listened, If I'd listened, I would. If I'd listened, I would be. If I'd listened, I would be better. If I'd listened, I would be better off. If I'd listened, I would be better off. Unscramble the words to make a sentence. He. He would. He would be. He would be better. He would be better off. He would be better off if. He would be better off if he'd. He would be better off if he'd listened. He would be better off if he'd listened. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? My boss wouldn't be upset if I'd sent or send her the invoices on time. My boss wouldn't be upset if I'd sent or send her the invoices on time. Sent. sent. My boss wouldn't be upset if I'd sent her the invoices on time. I'd sent equals I had sent. I'd is the contraction of I had, not I would in this sentence. Send is the base form, which doesn't work after had. The structure if I had sent requires the past participle sent. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? If I hadn't been late to the meeting, I would know or have known what is going on. If I hadn't been late to the meeting, I would know or have known what is going on. Know. Know. If I hadn't been late to the meeting, I would know what is going on. Would know is present tense. This is a mixed conditional showing how a past action affects the present. Would have known would refer to a result in the past, but here we're talking about what's going on right now. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? I would be promoted now if I had work or worked harder last year. I would be promoted now if I had work or worked harder last year. Worked. Worked. I would be promoted now if I had worked harder last year. We need past perfect had worked for the past condition. This is another mixed conditional with a past cause and present result. Work is the infinitive form. It's not used to show a hypothetical past situation in conditionals. We need had worked to match the conditional structure. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? I would make the copies if I had found or found the copy paper. I would make the copies if I had found or found the copy paper. Had found. Had found. I would make the copies if I had found the copy paper. We're talking about the present result of not finding the copy paper in the past. Had found shows the past perfect condition. Found is simple past, but it doesn't express the unreal past situation we need for the conditional structure. Listen to what I say. What is the past perfect verb used in the sentence? My boss wouldn't be upset if I'd sent her the invoices on time. Listen one more time. My boss wouldn't be upset if I'd sent her the invoices on time. Did you hear I'd sent? I'd sent means that had sent is the past perfect verb. How about he would be better off if he'd listened? Let's listen one more time. He would be better off if he'd listened. Did you hear? He'd listened. He'd listened means that had listened is the past perfect verb. Next. If I hadn't been late to the meeting, I would know what is going on. One more time. If I hadn't been late to the meeting, I would know what is going on. Did you hear hadn't been? Hadn't been is the past perfect verb. Next. I would be promoted now if I had worked harder last year. One more time. I would be promoted now if I had worked harder last year. Did you hear had worked? Had worked is the past perfect verb. And I would make the copies if I had found the copy paper. One more time. I would make the copies if I had found the copy paper. Did you hear had found? Had found is the past perfect verb. Thank you for watching. Now you know how to discuss wrong business decisions or business mistakes in English. And now you can move on to the next lesson in the pathway on EnglishClass101.com. Expand your vocabulary with our core 2,000 words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free English ebook before it's gone. Do you know how to express regrets about business decisions in English? Welcome to 3-Step English Practice by EnglishClass101.com. In this lesson, you'll practice how to express regrets about business decisions in English. Let's look at the main dialogue. Two people are having a conversation. I wish you had checked with me first. I was planning to have lunch with a friend tomorrow. Oh no! If only I'd called you before confirming with Miss Walton. Would you like me to reschedule with her? In this conversation, you saw two expressions. I wish you had checked with me first, and if only I'd called you before confirming. Both use the structure I wish, or if only, plus past perfect, which we use to talk about regrets about the past, something we didn't do, but now wish we had. The past perfect, had plus past participle, shows that the action happened in the past and cannot be changed, but we're expressing a strong feeling, usually regret or frustration, about that past event. Let's practice with this grammar more in this lesson. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? I wish that client to the manager. I wish that client to the manager. Hadn't complained. Hadn't complained. I wish that client hadn't complained to the manager. I wish that client hadn't complained to the manager. In this sentence, the speaker is regretting the fact that the client complained. The complaint already happened in the past, and the speaker wishes it had not happened. That's why we use the past perfect, had not, hadn't, plus past participle, complained. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? If only that invoice on time. If only that invoice on time. I'd sent. I'd sent. If only I'd sent that invoice on time. If only I'd sent that invoice on time. I'd sent is correct because we use if only plus past perfect to show regret about a past action that didn't happen. I sent is incorrect here because it's simple past, and we need past perfect after if only when talking about regrets about the past. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? I missed the deadline. I wish earlier. I missed the deadline. I wish earlier. Had started. Had started. I missed the deadline. I wish I had started earlier. I missed the deadline. I wish I had started earlier. Had started is correct because we use I wish plus past perfect to talk about regrets about the past. The speaker didn't start early enough and now regrets it. Started is incorrect because it's in the simple past, which we don't use with I wish to talk about past regrets. It doesn't clearly express that the regret is about something that didn't happen. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? If only we... that deal. If only we... that deal. Hadn't signed. Hadn't signed. If only we hadn't signed that deal. If only we hadn't signed that deal. Hadn't signed is correct because if only plus past perfect expresses regret about something that already happened. The speaker regrets signing the deal in the past. Didn't sign is incorrect because it's in the simple past tense, which doesn't clearly express regret about a past action. It sounds more like a neutral past statement, not a regret. Unscramble the words to make a sentence. Ready? If. If only. If only you. If only you had. If only you had warned. If only you had warned me. If only you had warned me about. If only you had warned me about the. If only you had warned me about the heat. If only you'd warned me about the heat. Unscramble the words to make a sentence. I wish. I wish I'd. I wish I'd prepared. I wish I'd prepared for. I wish I'd prepared for the. I wish I'd prepared for the heat. I wish I'd prepared for the heat. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? I wish I hadn't scheduled or schedule that lunch. I wish I hadn't scheduled or schedule that lunch. Scheduled. Scheduled. I wish I hadn't scheduled that lunch. Scheduled is correct because after hadn't, past perfect, we need the past participle form of the verb. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? I wish someone had shown or show me the copy paper. I wish someone had shown or show me the copy paper. Shown. Shown. I wish someone had shown me the copy paper. Shown is correct because after had, past perfect, we always use the past participle form of the verb. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? I wish I hadn't forgotten or didn't forget the meeting. I wish I hadn't forgotten or didn't forget the meeting. Hadn't forgotten. Hadn't forgotten. I wish I hadn't forgotten the meeting. Hadn't forgotten is correct because we use I wish plus past perfect to express regret about something that already happened. In this case, the meeting was missed and the speaker regrets forgetting it. Didn't forget is incorrect here because it's simple past. Choose the best answer to complete the sentence. Ready? If only I wouldn't have or hadn't said that in the meeting. If only I wouldn't have or hadn't said that in the meeting. Hadn't. Hadn't. If only I hadn't said that in the meeting. Wouldn't have said is incorrect here because if only needs the past perfect had plus past participle to express regret. Wouldn't have is a modal perfect, which we don't use after if only to show regret. Listen to what I say. Match the past perfect verb used in the sentence with its infinitive form on the right. I wish someone had shown me the copy paper. Listen one more time. I wish someone had shown me the copy paper. Did you hear shown? Shown is the past perfect form of show. How about, if only I hadn't said that in the meeting? Let's listen one more time. If only I hadn't said that in the meeting. Did you hear said? Said is the past perfect form of say. Next, I wish I'd prepared for the heat. One more time. I wish I'd prepared for the heat. Did you hear prepared? Prepared is the past perfect form of prepare. Next, I missed the deadline. I wish I had started earlier. One more time. I missed the deadline. I wish I had started earlier. Did you hear started? Started is the past perfect form of start. And if only I'd sent that invoice on time. One more time. If only I'd sent that invoice on time. Did you hear sent? Sent is the past perfect form of send. Thank you for watching. Now you know how to express regrets about business decisions in English. And now you can move on to the next lesson in the pathway on EnglishClass101.com.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this lesson, we're going to talk about the verb reach. Let's get started. Let's start with the basic definition of this verb. The basic definition of reach is to arrive somewhere, especially after using a lot of effort. Some examples. We reached the top of the mountain at sunset. The package didn't reach him in time. Now let's look at the conjugations for this verb. Present, reach, reaches. Past, reached. Past participle, reached. Progressive, reaching. Now let's talk about some additional meanings for this verb. The first additional meaning is to get to a certain level. Some examples. She wants to reach the highest level of language proficiency. Croatia reached the final round in the World Cup. So this use of reach is used to show that a certain level of achievement happens. In the first example sentence, it's about a skill or an ability. She wants to reach the highest level of language proficiency. Means she wants to work at something to achieve a specific rank or a specific level in something. So we typically use reach for like high levels of something. We don't use reach for low levels or intermediate levels so much. We tend to use it a lot for things that take time and effort to achieve. So in this case, a high level of language proficiency fits the use of reach. In the second example, it's a sports example. So it's about a team reaching the final round of the World Cup. So reaching the final round, again, shows a high level of skill or a high level of proficiency in something, in this case, a sport. So reaching something shows a high level of ability or like a lot of effort. We can use reach to talk about that. The next additional meaning is to extend an arm to try to obtain something. Some examples. I can't reach the glass on the top shelf. He reached across the table and grabbed the menu. So this use of reach is specifically about the body, about using the body, like the arm and the hand or hands, to try to reach something or to try to touch something. So we can use it in combination with other verbs. For example, the second sentence here is talking about reaching across a table, so extending an arm across a table, and grabbing. So grab means like taking something, but quickly, or like in this kind of quick motion. So to reach and do something, like to reach up and take something, for example, or to reach across and grab something, we commonly combine this use of reach with another verb. In the first example, though, it's about not being able to reach something. Like I can't reach the glass on the top shelf means like I'm too short, I can't extend my arm and touch, or I can't extend my arm and take the glass on the top shelf. Like it's too tall. I'm not tall enough, in other words. So you can see reach kind of combined with other verbs in this way, but it typically refers to using your physical body parts to try to get something or to try to touch something. The next additional meaning is to communicate with someone. Some examples. I'll try to reach you later. She hasn't been able to reach him all day. This use of reach means communicate, yes, but specifically we use it for emails and phone calls. We don't typically use it for face-to-face communication. We use reach kind of in the same way as we talked about with the second additional meaning, like you're reaching out to try to find something or to touch something or to communicate with someone. In this case, however, you're reaching out with your communication devices. So that means your phone or your computer. I'll talk about reach out a little bit later. So when we reach someone, it means we can communicate. We are able to communicate with them. In the second example sentence, however, we see a negative use of this. I haven't been able to reach him all day, which means I have not been able to communicate with this person all day. So by phone or by email, like no messages have been returned, for example. So using reach for communication is something that we do with like business clients, with colleagues, with coworkers, with the people in our office. We maybe use it from time to time with family members, though it can sound a little bit polite. Like I might not say, I'm trying to reach my mother, unless I'm speaking to like, I don't know, an authority figure. If it's a conversation with friends or with family, I would say, I want to call my mom, or I want to talk to my mom. I wouldn't say, I want to reach my mom. It sounds a little bit more formal. So you can use this at work, actually. It's quite common at work, in emails, and in phone calls. Let's move along to a variation with this verb. This variation is to reach out to somebody. This means to try to communicate with someone, often to try to support that person. Let's look at some examples. I'm writing to reach out for help regarding an upcoming project. Have you tried reaching out to the people in your network? So this use of reach out can be used to request support and can be used to offer support. In the second example sentence here, we see a question. Have you tried reaching out to the people in your network? This use of reach out shows like you want to communicate and get support. So reach out shows those two things happening at the same time. The first example sentence is actually a statement. I'm writing to reach out for help regarding an upcoming project. That's also a request. That's like an introduction to help. You can talk about how you offered your support or you would like to offer your support for something by saying like, I'm reaching out to see if I can support you with this project, for example. So you can request and offer support using reach out. Just keep in mind that reach out does sound like there's some help and communication involved. But it's a very nice and very positive word, actually, for helping others and communicating with people. So I hope that you found a new way of using the verb reach. If you have any questions or comments, or if you know a different way of using the verb reach, or if you want to practice making some example sentences, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. Of course, if you like the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you have not already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Reach for the sky. What other famous things are there for reach? I don't know. Mom, help me.
Reach for the sky is the big one.
Yeah, I think reach for the sky is a big one. Toy Story.
Are you ready to learn 5 new English words? This week's topic is planning and budget, and there'll be a quiz at the end to test you on the words. So let's go. Revise. Revise. It's a verb that means to change or correct something to make it better or more accurate. Here's an example. Revise the menu. Revise the menu. I need to revise the menu again. I need to revise the menu again. I need to revise the menu again to get the spices just right. If you revise it, won't it delay the flyers? Let's review. Say this out loud. Revise. Revise. Say this out loud. Revise the menu. Revise the menu. Say this out loud. I need to revise the menu again. I need to revise the menu again. Strategy. Strategy. It's a noun that means a careful plan or method for achieving a goal. Here's an example. A launch strategy. A launch strategy. I have a launch strategy. Demos, ads, and a blog. I have a launch strategy. Demos, ads, and a blog. I have a launch strategy. Live demos, targeted ads, and a behind-the-scenes blog. Full demos drag. Quick clips hook better? Let's review. Say this out loud. Strategy. Strategy. Say this out loud. A launch strategy. A launch strategy. Say this out loud. I have a launch strategy. Demos, ads, and a blog. I have a launch strategy. Demos, ads, and a blog. Inventory. Inventory. It's a noun that means a list of all the items a store or company has for sale or use. Here's an example. Kitchen inventory. Kitchen inventory. Can you update the kitchen inventory? Can you update the kitchen inventory? Herbs are almost gone. Can you update the kitchen inventory by tonight? On it. I'll tally every item and send the updated inventory in 30 minutes. Let's review. Say this out loud. Inventory. Inventory. Say this out loud. Kitchen inventory. Kitchen inventory. Say this out loud. Can you update the kitchen inventory? Can you update the kitchen inventory? Budget. Budget. It's a noun that means a plan for how to spend a certain amount of money. Here's an example. My budget. My budget. Saffron blew my budget. Saffron blew my budget. Wow, saffron just blew my budget. Sure, Let's draft a budget before splurging again. Let's review. Say this out loud. Budget. Budget. Say this out loud. My budget. My budget. Say this out loud. Saffron blew my budget. Saffron blew my budget. Prioritize. Prioritize. It's a verb that means to decide which things are more important and do them first. Here's an example. Prioritize the main chapters. Prioritize the main chapters. Let's prioritize the main chapters. Let's prioritize the main chapters. The meeting's tomorrow, so let's prioritize the main chapters. I'll color code tasks to prioritize them and make studying feel like a mini game. Let's review. Say this out loud. Prioritize. Prioritize. Say this out loud. Prioritize the main chapters. Prioritize the main chapters. Say this out loud. Let's prioritize the main chapters. Let's prioritize the main chapters. It's quiz time. Let's see how well you remember the words from the last 5 lessons. Ready?
Revise. Strategy. Inventory.
Budget.
Prioritize.
Great job! Follow English Class 101 for more English lessons. Are you ready to learn 5 new English words? This week's topic is consult and act, and there'll be a quiz at the end to test you on the words. So let's go. Consult. Consult. It's a verb that means to ask someone for advice or information. Here's an example. Consult you on work-life balance. Consult you on work-life balance. Can I consult you on work-life balance? Can I consult you on work-life balance? I'm swamped. Can I consult you on work-life balance? Sure. Just consult me before you burn the kitchen again. Let's review. Say this out loud. Consult. Consult. Say this out loud. Consult you on work-life balance. Consult you on work-life balance. Say this out loud. Can I consult you on work-life balance? Can I consult you on work-life balance? Verify. Verify. It's a verb that means to check if something is true or correct. Here's an example. Verify the trail conditions. Verify the trail conditions. Can you verify the trail conditions? Can you verify the trail conditions? That storm was brutal. Can you verify the trail conditions? Sure. I'll check the logs and ensure the permits are valid. Let's review. Say this out loud. Verify. Verify. Say this out loud. Verify the trail conditions. Verify the trail conditions. Say this out loud. Can you verify the trail conditions? Can you verify the trail conditions? Resign. Resign. It's a verb that means to leave a job or position by telling your employer you are quitting. Here's an example. Resign from the restaurant. Resign from the restaurant. I've decided to resign from the restaurant to travel. I've decided to resign from the restaurant to travel. I've decided to resign from the restaurant to travel and test new recipes. You want to resign with no plan? That sounds risky. Let's review. Say this out loud. Resign. Resign. Say this out loud. Resign from the restaurant. Resign from the restaurant. Say this out loud. I've decided to resign from the restaurant to travel. I've decided to resign from the restaurant to travel. Implement. Implement. It's a verb that means to start using a plan or idea to make something happen. Here's an example. Implement a weekly menu. Implement a weekly menu. I'll implement a weekly menu of spices. I'll implement a weekly menu of spices. I'll implement a weekly menu of exotic spices. Nice move, but we need a bold marketing plan now or it'll go unnoticed. Let's review. Say this out loud. Implement. Implement. Say this out loud. Implement a weekly menu. Implement a weekly menu. Say this out loud. I'll implement a weekly menu of spices. I'll implement a weekly menu of spices. Allocate. Allocate. It's a verb that means to give out or set aside something, like time or money, for a specific purpose or task. Here's an example. Allocate 2 extra hours. Allocate 2 extra hours. Let's allocate 2 extra hours for proposal reviews. Let's allocate 2 extra hours for proposal reviews. Let's allocate 2 extra hours next week for proposal reviews. Allocate funds again? What will we have to cut this time? Let's review. Say this out loud. Allocate. Allocate. Say this out loud. Allocate 2 extra hours. Allocate 2 extra hours. Say this out loud. Let's allocate 2 extra hours for proposal reviews. Let's allocate 2 extra hours for proposal reviews. It's quiz time. Let's see how well you remember the words from the last 5 lessons. Ready?
Consult. Verify. Resign.
Implement.
Allocate.
Great job. Follow English Class 101 for more English lessons.
Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at EnglishClass101.com.
Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to report speech in detail. This lesson will cover some vocabulary words you can use to be more specific about how you report speech, and we'll also talk about some patterns you can use for making questions. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing I want to focus on for this lesson is vocabulary. So I've created a list of vocabulary words. These are all verbs, and these are all words we use to report speech. So the most common are probably here at the top: say, tell, talk, speak. So we use these words as kind of the basic ways to report speech. We have the past tense form of the verb on the right side. So I want to go through each verb one by one and talk about how and why we use it, and talk about some other small points related to these verb choices. So let's begin with the first verb, say. So say is the most basic way to report speech. It's a very neutral verb choice. The past tense form is said, not said, but said. So let's look at an example sentence with this. He said he was coming to the meeting. He said he was coming to the meeting. Here we have said used. It's in past tense because this statement happened. So this information was given to the speaker. So we use say in the past tense form here to report this information. He was coming to the meeting. So in these sentences, when we use said, we're just giving a neutral report of speech. It doesn't sound good or bad, or it doesn't sound like there's a specific type of conversation happening. It's just a very neutral report. So this is what we use say to do. He said he was coming to the meeting. You will also notice in many of today's sentences as well that the verb here that we use here to report this is in past tense. He said he was coming to the meeting. He said he was coming to the meeting. So that means that in the past, according to his past statement, he was planning to. So at that time, in the past, he was planning to come. So he was coming to the meeting. So we'll see this past tense verb used here in situations like this. Okay, so this is our most basic way to report speech. In today's lesson, I want to talk about ways to level up from just this verb.
So let's move on to a couple more review verbs, and then we'll talk about some more detailed ways to express how people talk. Okay, so the next verb is tell. Tell. Past tense is told. So we use the verb tell in situations where we're expressing kind of a one-way transfer of information. If there are two people in a situation and one person is giving most of the information, we would probably use tell to describe that. Like, person A told person B the information. We use tell a lot when we're asking for information mostly from one person or when we're just getting information from one person. So it has this kind of one-way feel. So let's look at an example sentence that uses tell. Here, my friend told me a secret. My friend told me a secret. So here we have, again, past tense, my friend told me a secret. So this expresses that this situation is finished. This is done in the past. My friend told me a secret. So in this sentence and with other uses of the verb tell, after this told, you'll see the recipient of the information, the person who received the information. In this case, it's me. My friend told me a secret. You could change this to change the recipient, like my friend told him a secret, or my friend told her a secret. My friend told us a secret. So you can change the recipient right here. So my friend told me a secret. Sounds like my friend did most of the talking, and I just listened to the secret. So this is what we use tell to do. Okay, let's go to the next verb, talk. Talk. So talk in past tense is talked. Talked. So let's take a look at an example sentence first here. I talked to him about the report yesterday. I talked to him about the report yesterday. So after talked, we have two preposition choices. We have to or with. People ask, like, what's the difference between the two? Generally, there isn't one. But if you want a little bit more of a feeling of a conversation, like two or more people talking together about something, you can use with. But generally speaking, to or with, both are fine to use here. A pronunciation point then too. I read this sentence very clearly. I talked to him. However, in everyday native speech, we make these sounds come together. I talked to him becomes I talked to him. I talked to him. So this talked is not clearly pronounced, this part, the end word, or the end syllable here. I talked to him about the report yesterday. So it becomes I talked to him, I talked to him, or I talked to her, I talked to her. So talked to or talked with is like said. However, it's not just a report of something. When we say I talked to or I talked with someone, it's like it's showing there was a conversation, right? Here, in this case, the conversation is about the report, yeah? So I talked to him about the report sounds like there was a conversation, but I don't need to share all the details. I just want to show that there was a conversation. I talked to him. We can express it with this verb, I talked to him. Let's compare talked to the next verb, which is speak. Speak. In past tense, it is spoke. Spoke. So let's look at the example sentence here. She spoke with us after lunch. She spoke with us after lunch. So the first question is, what is the difference between talk and speak? Generally, talk is a little bit less formal than speak. So we use speak in work situations or professional situations, more formal situations. And we also use the verb speak to talk about our language abilities, like he speaks English or she spoke Spanish yesterday. So for this lesson, I want to just consider that spoke or speak in the infinitive form. Spoke is more formal. We tend to use this in like professional situations. So talked would also be 100% correct in this sentence. She talked with us after lunch. Perfect. And the same rule applies to the preposition that follows the verb. Talked to and talked with were both okay here. The same is true here. She spoke to us or she spoke with us. Both are okay to use. Again, with sounds a little bit more like the conversation is happening together. So she spoke with us after lunch. So we can use this verb choice to make the sentence sound a little bit more professional. Okay, great. So let's move on now to the next group of verbs. The first one is ask, ask, and the past tense form is asked. Okay, so we use this when we need to make a question or we need to report that we asked a question. So let's look at the example. I asked my boss for some time off next week. I asked my boss for some time off next week. So here we have past tense asked, I asked, and after that is my boss in this case. So this is the person receiving the request. I asked my boss for. You'll notice this is the preposition used here. I asked my boss for some time off next week. We use this preposition for before a noun phrase. In this case, we have some time off. That's our noun phrase that's used here. You may also see to used here. I asked my boss to stop emailing me so much, for example. So if you have a verb that follows this, so if the request is about a verb, like to stop, or I asked my boss to do something, you need to use to, not for here. So for comes before your noun phrase. This part, after the verb, I asked someone for something, this part is the recipient of the request. A pronunciation point about this too. I said, I asked my boss, but in everyday speech, we don't pronounce it this clearly. I asked my boss becomes much, much shorter. It sounds like, I asked my boss for some time off last week. Okay, or next week, sorry. I asked my boss for some time off next week. So this asked is so quick, it sounds like I asked my boss, I asked my boss. So it's like the D sound, it's very, very, very small. I asked my boss. So try to reduce this sound down. Not I asked my boss, but I asked my boss for time off next week. Okay, let's move on to the next verb, which is discuss. Discuss. This is a great verb to know for professional and business English. So discuss and the past tense form discussed, discussed. So this is a nice polite word that means we had a conversation and it sounds kind of like a professional conversation. So this is a great word to know for meetings and other kind of more formal discussions. So let's look at the example sentence for this. Our team discussed some problems yesterday. Our team discussed some problems yesterday. So here we have past tense discussed, and we have a noun phrase after it, some problems yesterday. Okay, so our team discussed some problems yesterday means our team talked about some problems yesterday. So what's the difference between discussed and talked about? As I mentioned, discussed sounds more professional. It sounds more polite, a little more polished. So our team discussed some problems yesterday sounds a little bit more business-like. So you can use this word if you want to make it sound a little bit more professional, your sentence. Of course, I talked about it or our team talked about some problems is also great. It just sounds a little more casual. So it's up to you which you want to choose. Okay, great. So let's go to the last three in this first part of the vocabulary list. So the last three are here because they're actually verbs we use to describe how someone is speaking. So the first verb here is whisper. Whisper. To whisper means to talk in a very soft, very quiet voice. So here's an example. I'm whispering right now. I just whispered. So using a very, very quiet voice, this is called whispering. So the verb is to whisper. In past tense, it is whispered. So sometimes, especially when you're writing things, it can be really important to talk about how someone is speaking. So not just who they were talking with or if they had a discussion, but also how the person is speaking. So let's look at an example sentence. Let's leave soon, she whispered. Let's leave soon, she whispered. So we can imagine that this let's leave soon was said in a very, very quiet voice. Let's leave soon, she whispered. So this is telling us that a quiet voice was used. So if we had let's leave soon, she said, it would also be 100% correct. No problem there. However, whispered gives us a little bit more information about how she said it. So this might be very important for understanding the situation, especially in a book or in some kind of other story you're reading. So you can use whisper to talk about the manner in which someone says something. Okay, so we talked about a quiet voice, whisper, to whisper. Now let's go to the opposite end. So the last two verbs here are shout and scream. So to shout means to use a very loud voice. So sometimes we use a shouting voice when we're very angry or surprised or shocked. Sometimes when we're very excited. It means to use a very, very loud voice to say something. Okay? The past tense is shouted, shouted. So let's look at the example. My roommate shouted, yay, when he passed his test. My roommate shouted, yay, when he passed his test. So this use, shouted, shows that the yay was said in a very loud voice. Again, if you said, my roommate said yay when he passed his test, it's also correct, but it doesn't communicate the excited feeling that this sentence has. So this is a happy moment. So the roommate is probably very excited. Choosing the verb shout instead of said sounds a lot better because it matches the feeling that we're communicating here. Of course, you could make it interesting and choose a different verb, like my roommate whispered, yay, when he passed his test. This would sound like maybe he passed the test in the test room and he needed to be very quiet. So you can change the verbs that you use to express speech to be more specific and to give more detail about the situation. Okay, so let's look at our last verb, scream. Scream, to scream, and past tense, screamed. Okay, so what's the difference between shout and scream? Shout, as I said, is in like a really, really loud voice, like ah, or yay, as in this example. Or sometimes when we use an angry voice, or when we have angry feelings, we might shout about something. Or if we hurt ourselves, maybe, we might shout. A scream, however, a scream is a very loud sound that often is used in very scary situations or really, really shocking situations. So if you imagine a scary movie and somebody in the movie is injured or hurt or afraid, they will probably scream. So a scream is a very, very scary sound generally. It's like, ah, somebody is really, really scared, and it sounds different than just a shout. So a shout is like a big voice, yes, but a scream, generally the feeling of a scream is that something is really scary or really, really dangerous. You might also hear screams or use screaming at amusement parks, yeah? So scream is typically used for really, really shocking or really, really scary situations. You might also hear it when people get super, 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 super angry, so they go past shouting and they go to screaming. So if it helps you, you can kind of think of shout as here and scream at this level, yeah? And of course, say, tell, and talk are down here. Okay, so let's look at the example sentence. The soccer fans screamed at the referee. The soccer fans screamed at the referee. Okay, so in this situation, the soccer fans were really, really, really angry or maybe really, really shocked about the game. So they screamed at the referee. So this shows that they use this really, really angry, really, really like high-level, explosive way to communicate at the referee. You'll notice too, this preposition here, to scream at someone, to scream at someone. We use at as the preposition here. So this shows the direction of the scream, okay? So we don't use to. We don't say the soccer fans screamed to the referee. We do not do that. We use at. This shows the direction of the scream in this case, okay? Also, you could change this preposition. You could use with, which would show that the screaming is between the soccer fans and the referee together. The soccer fans screamed with the referee. Makes a grammatically correct sentence, but it communicates a totally different idea. If they're screaming together, maybe something terrible happened at the soccer game. I hope not. But when you use scream, show at to show the person receiving the scream, if it helps to think of it that way. Maybe in a horror movie, you could think of it in another way too, like the girl screamed at the murderer or something like that. That's kind of a dark example sentence, but we always use this at to show the direction of the scream. Or in another situation, maybe my boss screamed at me this morning. She was really upset. So this shows the direction. We use at in these cases. Okay, so we've talked about some key vocabulary words that we use to express speech. Last part here, the last thing I want to talk about with the vocabulary are a couple of really interesting ways that we express casual reports of speech. So in our everyday conversations, like outside work or outside of school, when we're talking with our close friends or our close family members, these are some expressions that we use to report speech. And they don't really mean something. It's more just that we want to use them as markers for speech. So let's take a look at this, see what I'm talking about here. So these are go and be, the verb be, all, and the verb be like. Be like. So we tend to use these in past tense a lot. You'll hear go and goes used, but you'll hear that in past tense too. So that means go becomes went, and be all becomes was or were all, and be like becomes was or were like. So this may seem really, really strange, and you might think, how would I ever use this? This doesn't make any sense. So I created a short example paragraph. Let's take a look at this, and we'll see how these are used to express speech casually. This is very, very quickly done in everyday native conversation. So let's take a look. First, I wanted to try to get to know my new coworker better. So I go, hey, you want to get a coffee sometime? And she was like, sounds great. So I was all, awesome. How about this weekend, Sunday? And she said, sounds good. Okay, so this short example uses this I go, was like, was all, and then I used a basic said at the end. So it's very common to use a mix of these kind of marker words for speech. So was all or was like. These don't mean like a comparison. They don't have a specific meaning. We just use them to mark the speech. If you use said over and over and over, it can sound very repetitive. For example, I wanted to try to get to know my coworker better. So I said, hey, you want to get a coffee sometime? And she said, sounds great. So I said, and you use said and said and said many, many times, it can sound quite repetitive. So to avoid this, we tend to use a mix of these expressions. So I go, and you'll notice that this go is not used in past tense, even though we're talking about the past, right? So we're using this go. This is sometimes used to mark the beginning of the past conversation. Like this person is showing the first request or the first question in the conversation, the beginning of the conversation. So you may see go used in that way. And you may also see it used from time to time here and there to show a response as well. But again, this verb tense isn't super important. We're just using this word as a marker for the next part of speech. In this case, the quote comes right after it, yeah? So don't think too hard about the meaning of this go. It's more like saying, I go or I went, I took my turn in the conversation, if that helps you. So it's kind of like saying it was my turn, so I went next in the conversation. That's kind of how we use this go. Same thing with this was like and was all. So we're not comparing anything, we're not talking about parts of something. These are just speech markers, but they're very, very common. And if you watch English-speaking media, you will hear these all the time. They are so common. So definitely keep an ear out for these, listen for these. And they sound very, very fast. So I read this very slowly, but let's have a listen. Let's hear what they sound like at native speed. So I wanted to try to get to know my new coworker better. So I go, hey, you want to get a coffee sometime? And she was like, sounds great. So I was all, awesome. How about this weekend, Sunday? And she said, sounds good. So these was like and was all parts become very short. And she was like, and she was like, and I was all. So these sound very, very short. But because we're so used to using these to mark our speech, they sound very natural to us after a while. So try to listen for these when you watch US or any other kind of English-speaking media. We use these words a lot in American English to mark our speech, and you will definitely hear it throughout your studies. So I definitely recommend you take some time to get familiar with these sounds and how to use them yourself. Okay, so with our vocabulary done, I want to finish this lesson by looking at some questions. So we can use question patterns when we report speech and when we want to ask about speech too. So of course, this lesson is about reporting speech in detail, yes, but we also need to have questions ready too to continue the conversation about speech. So let's take a look at a couple of grammar points that we can use to help us do this. The first point is embedded questions. Embedded question. What is an embedded question? An embedded question is a question inside another question. So here's a really good example of a very common type of embedded question. It's the do you know question. Do you know? Okay, so we ask do you know plus something when we need information from another person. For example, do you know where my keys are? Do you know where my keys are? Or do you know who has my bag? Do you know who has my bag? Or do you know what the password is? Do you know what the password is? And one more, do you know when the meeting is? Do you know when the meeting is? So you can see a pattern here, maybe. These start with these WH questions. Where, who, what, when in this case. And there's another pattern to be very, very aware of when you practice making embedded questions for the first time. That is this point. Be verbs move to the end of the question in embedded questions. So what does that mean? So let's look at this, and this. These three example sentences. These all have a be verb. We have are, is, and is. So think about these questions, these basic questions. Where my keys are? Well, that's not a grammatically correct question, right? When you are looking for your keys, you say, where are my keys, right? You say, where are my keys? Or in this sentence, not what the password is, but what is the password? What is the password, right? That's grammatically correct. In this sentence, when is the meeting? This is grammatically correct, right? However, when you put a question inside another question, these be verb questions take a different grammar rule. We move the be verb to the end. So not, do you know where are my keys? Or do you know what is the password? Or do you know when is the meeting? These verbs all move to the end of the question. That's a very strange rule, I know, but that's just how it is. So make sure to practice this. These are some super, super common ones that you can start with. So I highly recommend you practice these embedded questions, and this do you know pattern is a really, really great place to start. Okay, lastly, let's move along to present perfect questions. Present perfect questions. Of course, present perfect is a very good grammar point to know, a very important grammar point to know and to practice. We also need to practice making questions, and this is a good situation in which you can have some questions ready. So, have you is how you can begin your present perfect question. Have you plus the past participle form of these verbs we talked about. So earlier we practiced the simple past form, the past tense form of the verb. Here are the past participle forms of some of these verbs. So practice making some questions that use these verbs. Let's take a look at a few examples, some that you can use to get started. Have you said anything to anyone? Have you said anything to anyone? Or have you told anyone about this? Have you told anyone about this? So again, these two are asking someone for information about speech, right? So you're not just reporting the speech, you're asking for someone else's information about speech. Have you said anything to anyone? So that one is like maybe a little bit suspicious sounding, or maybe you're trying to keep a secret. Have you said anything to anyone? Or have you told anyone about this? Again, used for maybe a secret situation or a confidential or private situation. Have you told anyone about this? Or the next one, have you talked to her about the problem? Have you talked to her about the problem? So this might be some advice to someone. Have you talked to her or have you talked with her? The same preposition rule applies here. Have you talked to her about the problem? Or have you spoken with the client recently? Have you spoken with the client recently? So this is a good one to ask about the status of a client relationship. One more. Have you asked anyone for help? Have you asked anyone for help? So you can use these present perfect questions to get more information from people, for them to know that you need some more information relating to speech. So you're asking for reports maybe in these cases. So these are some great questions that you can use to start with, and they use present perfect tense, which I know is a very challenging grammar point for many people, but it's super important to practice. One point I want to end on about simple past. Simple past questions in these cases are okay. They're grammatically correct, yes. But the difference, they are usually used for situations that are finished or situations that are done. So the feeling with a simple past tense question in a situation like this is that the action is done, right? So for example, did you say anything to anyone? Did you say anything to anyone? It sounds like maybe you're talking about one situation in the past and it's complete. So in a meeting, did you say anything to anyone? However, this have you said anything to anyone means from some point in the past until now and maybe into the future also. So it means up until this time. Have you said anything? So did you doesn't communicate that same feeling. Did you sounds like a one-time question. Did you say anything? Or did you tell anyone about this? Sounds like it's over, it's finished. Have you told anyone? Sounds like in this time period and maybe continuing into the future. Have you told anyone about this? Like, do you have any plans to? So these are the subtle, very small differences in feeling that we can get if we just change the grammar a little bit. Another example, did you talk to her about the problem? Did you talk to her about the problem? So again, that sounds like a one-time thing in the past. Did you talk to her? As opposed to, have you talked to her about the problem? You could say, for example, not yet, but I'm going to. So have you questions sound a little bit more open-ended than did you questions. So again, both are grammatically correct, but they have slightly different feels. Okay, great. So I hope that this lesson gave you some ideas and gave you some vocabulary words that you can use to report speech in a more natural, smooth, and interesting way and in more detail. And of course, there are other verbs that we can use to describe the different ways that people speak. So you can definitely explore that as you build your vocabulary some more. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to practice making some example sentences, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. Also, if you like this lesson, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Also, check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Bye!
Want to speed up your language learning? Take your very first lesson with us. You'll start speaking in minutes and master real conversations. Sign up for your free lifetime account. Just click the link in the description. Access your free language gifts right now before they expire. First, the Talking About Your Week PDF conversation cheat sheet, where you'll master the days of the week and all the phrases needed to talk about your schedule. Download it now for free. Second, Halloween words you must know. Learn how to say scary, ghost, vampire, and much more with this 1-minute lesson. Third, want a bonus writing workbook? No other language app will give you free bonus resources, but we will. You're also getting the bonus Halloween PDF writing workbook, yours free inside the free gifts of the month. Fourth, 40+ words for the most common fears. You'll learn how to say public speaking, needles, and much more in your target language. And fifth, the only language app that gets you speaking and understanding native speakers because it teaches you through real conversations between real native speakers. Download the innovative language learning app for free on Android, iPhone, and iPad. To get your free gifts of the month, click the link in the description below and download them now before they expire. Great work! Here's a reward. Speed up your language learning with our PDF lessons. Get all of our best PDF cheat sheets and ebooks for free. Just click the link in the description.